Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about portable dehumidifiers. We'd like to thank Rich and Michelle Ward for liking and sharing the podcast. In 1902, one of the first dehumidifiers was made by Willis Carrier, and he went on to create the Carrier Air Conditioner Company. And he created a dehumidifying system for lithograph paper.
What's that?
Lithography. So companies would take these metal plates and they'd either have letters on it or designs, like artists would create their design, and then they'd carve it into these plates, and then they used ink to stamp it on paper. But the problem was paper would absorb humidity and it would curl the paper, and then the ink would smear. So they really needed, very low humidity. And he created this machine where he would move air over coils, and they contained a coolant, and that drew the humidity out of the air. So it was really great for lithography. And then he realized that, hey, this is really good for making cold air. So he kind of created his first air conditioners based on this system.
Interesting.
You know what happened in 1903?
No.
The Wright brothers had their first flight.
That couldn't be just because you read a book about the Wright brothers that came out.
Fantastic book. Amazing history of the Wright brothers.
Okay, let's
I'm reading a great one on the Lusitania, the sinking of the Lusitania.
Yeah,
so nice. I'll have some tidbits of that in the future, I'm sure. According to the EPA, so the Environmental Protection Agency, the average person is indoors 90% of their life.
Really?
And 65% of your life you spend in your home. Only about 7% outdoors, which that doesn't seem possible, that we're only spending 7% of our life outdoors. And
how often do you go outside?
I believe well over 7% of the time. Indoor concentrations of pollutants are 2 to 5 times higher than the outside, and high humidity and mold causes a variety of health problems in your home.
Right.
Brown University did a study, and they found a link between humid and moldy homes and depression, and they think that the toxins in mold can actually affect the nervous system.
Interesting.
In some people, they say that the memory and problem-solving center of the brain is affected by mold. So by controlling the humidity inside our house, we can control mold, because it's always in the air, but it really doesn't start to grow until you have high humidity levels. And once it starts to grow, it can grow almost on any surface. It can cause allergic reactions in some people, asthma attacks in other people. Along with mold in high humid homes, you have a problem with dust mites.
Yep.
So they can reproduce over 50% humidity, and then especially 60% and more, they grow out of control. They start to die off once it's less than 50% humidity, because they're drawing that moisture from the air to survive. And they live in your mattresses, pillows, furnitures. They love to eat skin cells from humans and pets.
Stop trying to gross people out. If they want to listen about dust mites, they can listen to our podcast about it.
That was a good episode. Refer back to that. And it can cause allergic reactions. So this is dust mites: runny nose, sneezing, difficulty breathing, and again causing asthma attacks in some people. With high humidity, you can also damage your home, furniture, musical instruments. It's bad for computers. It can cause rust and short circuits, depending on how high the humidity is. And then dry air. So then if you go the other direction and you dry out too much, so you go crazy with the dehumidifier, you can shrink wood and on your furniture, on floors. If your humidity is too low, your skin becomes dry, mucous membranes in your nose dry out, and you're more susceptible to colds, flus, and infections. A lot of people get nosebleeds if it's too low. And then in hot weather, high humidity makes you feel very uncomfortable. To know your indoor humidity, you can purchase a hygrometer at the hardware store. So you want to keep your humidity level at around 50% in the summer and around 40% in the winter. And there's two main types of dehumidifiers. You have absorption or mechanical. With chemical absorption dehumidifiers, they're really good for small areas. If you have a kitchen or a bathroom without an exhaust fan, laundry rooms, crawl spaces, garages, closets, you can get something that either has calcium chloride or silica gel, and this is going to absorb water from the air.
So are these like the disposable ones that you throw out?
Well, there's both. So calcium chloride is the disposable,
Right.
Damprid, so it's DAMP-RID. They use calcium chloride, which is really just a salt that you'd use like in ice melt.
Right.
And this attracts and holds water until it dissolves and it becomes a solution. So they have tubs that you fill up, and then as it turns into a solution, you just pour it out and then refill this with calcium chloride.
Right.
And then they also have bags with this, and the bag is porous on top, and then it drips down into a plastic bag to hold the water.
The top half has the calcium chloride in it,
right,
and the bottom is empty, and that's where all the water ends up.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very simple, and then you just throw it out.
Right.
So water fills into this bag, which is trapped, just small holes connected to the main upper bag. They also have them where you can hang it. It has a hanger on top, and those do a really nice job in crawl spaces, basements, and especially closets. Other companies use silica gel, and this was discovered in the 1600s. It's a naturally occurring mineral, and they used this during World War I in their gas masks. You know what I found in the Wright Brothers book?
No, what?
In 1915, chlorine gas was first used by Germans.
Okay,
and
how is that?
So how important? Silica gel in these gas masks? Interesting. And then in World War II, they used silica gel as a desiccant to keep penicillin dry, and they said it was very important. Now you'll usually see it in those small packages, those porous little bags in vitamins. They'll put it into electronics to keep them dry.
So this doesn't dissolve like calcium chloride does, right?
Exactly. And what's interesting, so Evadry, EVA-DRY, they have a top-rated silica gel dehumidifier, and to recharge it, so the silica gel doesn't dissolve, it stays in this container, and then there's a little heating unit in this. You flip up a plug, you plug it in. Well, you take it out of the room where you're trying to get the humidity out, and let's say you put it in the garage, you plug it in, and it dissipates all that moisture, and then it recharges it. It's ready to grab moisture again.
And how long does that last?
These will last up to 10 years,
oh, wow,
so you can keep recharging it, so pretty amazing. And it takes about 6 to 8 hours for this to dry out. And also, they're able to color the silica gel. So there's a little sight glass in this.
Oh, yeah. We did a video on this, right?
Yeah, and when it changes color, you know that it's time to recharge it. So once it absorbs, it's absorbed all the moisture it can. Now you take it and you plug it in and you dry it out, and you can use this over and over. So
well, it's nice because it's a nice, small, portable unit.
Right.
You could take it from room to room if you have to.
Yeah, very effective. For mechanical dehumidifiers, there's a few different ways that humidifiers work, but most are made up of a fan that's moving air over cooling coils, and they're filled with a coolant. They condense the moisture on these coils, and it drips into a container, and then the air moves over warm coils to get it up to room temperature. Interesting, isn't it? And most are going to have a float that turns off the unit when the container's full, and many are going to have air filters that need to be checked regularly.
Interesting.
Small dehumidifiers are in that 30 pint range, and they're for around 300 square feet, and this is going to remove about 30 pints of water a day. So whatever it says on it, if it says 30, 50, 70, that's how many pints per day. A medium unit is around 50 pints per day, and that's about 700 square feet. And then large is 70 pints or more, and that's 1,500 square feet and up. Most pros are recommending getting a unit that's slightly larger than what you need, or get the largest you can afford, especially if you're going to be moving this around the house.
Right.
The largest units they found last longer. They have larger water containers, so you don't have to change as much, and then many more features. If you plan on moving it around, then make sure that you're thinking about, how heavy it is. Look at the unit weight, and then, if it has nice wheels and casters and things. If your unit has an air vent on top, it can be placed against the wall, but just make sure you check the label. With most units, they have to be 6 to 12 inches away from a wall or furniture.
Interesting. If you're thinking about purchasing a dehumidifier, what kind of features should you be looking for?
I like the auto shutoff for humidity and water levels. So if it gets to a certain humidity range, it's going to shut off automatically. And then, of course, once the container's full, it's nice if it shuts off. Auto restart. If the power happens to go off while you're away, especially if you're on vacation, if the power goes off, they have some models that will automatically restart once the power comes back on. And then the type of air filter, I would see what replacements are available. So if you're purchasing one, see if the air filters, that place sells them.
Right.
And then for your wheels, the pros say that the larger the wheels are, the better. Casters do a really nice job of moving over carpet and different types of material. A long power cord is convenient if you're changing it around the room. Multiple fan speeds. a full container light to know whether unit is full or if it's stopped because of a humidity level.
Oh,
so if
yeah.
it turned off, is it at the right humidity level or is it just full?
Right.
So it's nice to have a light that tells you that. And then a hose connection. If you have a drain available, depending on where you're placing it, it's nice to have that option to connect a hose to it so you can just drain it without having to constantly remove the container. And then you can also get a type that has a built-in pump, so you can pump that water up and into like a wash tub.
Oh.
And then low temperature setting. If you plan to use this in cool weather, or if you plan to use it like in an unfinished basement or crawl space, if it gets too cool, because you're using coolant through these coils,
right,
it can actually frost up. So some will have an auto defrost that thaws out the coils if it gets too cool. I would look at the noise level. Most pros are saying look for something under 50 decibels.
Right.
So around 60 decibels is a box fan. That's the sound that makes. So you want it under 50 decibels in most cases.
Because that's pretty loud.
Right. Especially if you have it in the front room where you're watching TV. Your warranty, the better is, longer is better. 1 year is very common. And then Energy Star. If you get an Energy Star model, it's using about 15% less energy than a typical dehumidifier. If your unit is pulling a lot of water consistently out of the air and you have these, tubs filled with water, you can use these for watering plants around the house. But most of the pros recommend that you don't use it on edible plants.
Why?
Research has found contaminants in the water in many of these tests, and they don't want you putting that into anything that you're eating.
Nice.
Isn't that interesting? Inside your house, there's enough air pollutants that they're worried about putting it into vegetables.
That's gross.
It's weird. You want to clean the water container regularly to prevent the buildup of mold and mildew, and then clean the air filter and the grills regularly.
What are some top-rated portable dehumidifiers?
So for the chemical style, Evadry and Damp Red were both rated very high, and that's calcium chloride and silica gel. The Evadry, they have a really tiny electric one, so it's like they call it a mini, and it just holds 16 ounces of water, but it does a really nice job, rated very high. Frigidaire, Keystone, New Air, DeLonghi, and that's D-E, capital L-O-N-G-H-I, Edge Star, and Winter, W-H-Y-N-T-E-R, and GE all have top-rated dehumidifiers. If you have a damp home, you should be checking cracks in the basement or crawl spaces. Check the airflow from your bathroom and kitchen vents. Make sure they're working properly, they're not obstructed. For your hood vent in the kitchen, make sure that you're cleaning that regularly. And when you're taking baths and showers, make sure that you use a fan, the exhaust fan, while you're doing it. And then for 20 minutes after a shower, leave that vent on, and that's going to pull that excess moisture out of the house.
And you should listen to our bathroom exhaust fan episode.
That's an excellent
It
podcast.
was totally excellent.
If you have a lot of houseplants and you overwater them, aquariums. It was interesting in a few of the articles how much water is put into the air just from an aquarium.
So if you didn't know, we're from Chicago, and on the Chicago Bulls is Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And so he just signed his contract extension this year.
Okay.
So he bought 6,000-pound aquarium in the shape of a boombox that actually plays music.
Oh, that's so great.
So I'm pretty sure he's going to need a dehumidifier.
Shoot him an email. Use Twitter.
Yeah.
You should always check your dryer ducts, make sure they're venting properly. Look at any dripping, and dripping pipes are a problem anyway. You should solve that, but that really adds moisture to the air. Cooking, bathing, mopping, all this is going to add moisture, so make sure that you're using a vent while you're doing that too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Your downspout should be 5 feet to 10 feet away from your foundation, and that's going to put less chance of putting water into the basement and crawl space.
We're going to do an episode about waterproofing a basement.
That'll be excellent.
Totally.
If you have a broken water pipe or a flooded basement, you don't necessarily have to buy a dehumidifier. You can go to a rental store. So if humidity is not a problem the rest of the year, and then you have a situation like a flooded basement, you can run to a rental store And I would get a wet dry vac, get a fan. You can rent these blowers, carpet blowers, and they just move a lot of air. We need to get air moving quickly. We need to get dehumidifiers in here, getting that moisture out of the air, because mold starts to grow in about 24 to 48 hours once it gets wet, once material gets wet.
Right, and it's not just the carpet that you have to worry about. It's your furniture, it's the walls, and all this sucks up this moisture.
Right. Drywall, sure. And you got to get behind the drywall.
Right.
So like with drywall, you need to cut that up a foot beyond where you see it's damp. And it's important to get behind there and get air moving and get a dehumidifier on.
And it's not just basements that you need to worry about. My great-grandmother, she lived in a first-floor condo, and we had so this is going back, probably 25 years ago, but we had this huge flood. She called my mom in a panic because there was water running into our house. Right. So my mom rushes over there. It was up to their thighs already.
Oh, terrible.
So, and great-grandmother didn't drive. She had a cane or a walker that she used my whole entire life. Wow. So they get her out, but then the worry was, mold and mildew with all of her stuff, and all of her furniture is super old, all that kind of stuff. And so they went to the rental store and was able to get a dehumidifier, these huge big fans. Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, that's what you have to do. It's otherwise you're going to destroy your whole home. Yeah, it needs to get dried immediately, and especially with carpet, like padding, that stuff will probably all have to be thrown out. Right, exactly. But like my grandparents' basement used to flood occasionally, and so they had to rip out all their carpet. And just leave it a couple times and replace it. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'd probably just go tile after the first one. Change gears. Yeah, exactly. It's easier to clean up. They had paneling on their basement, but they never replaced that. I'm sure really? I'm sure the new homeowners replaced it. Take a look behind there. Yeah, but it was really dark paneling, so nobody knew. One other thing about renting a dehumidifier or any type of equipment for when there's a flood, not only do rental places do it, but you could also look at your local hardware stores. Right. A lot of them have a huge rental center. Yeah. And more and more. You should realize that, your house flooded, but probably your neighbor's house flooded too. So if it's a storm. Yeah. Yeah, so you need to get there fast. Well, you need to call around and be quick about it. Right. Do you have anything else to add? I'd say a hygrometer. If you think you have a problem with humidity, just an inexpensive hygrometer is going to give you a feel for whether you need it or not. Well, I don't know if a lot of homeowners think about humidity, and it could be a huge problem to your health and to your home. Sure, yeah, your furniture. Mold, asthma, all that kind of stuff, allergies. Yep, absolutely. So too much humidity, really bad. Too little, bad. Yep, 50% about in the summer, 40% about in the winter. Mm-hmm. If you have very small areas, these chemical dehumidifiers do a very nice job. They're inexpensive, easy to use. Well, and they're easy to dispose of, too. Right. And then mechanical, know the square feet of the room that you're trying to use this in, or just get as large a unit as you can afford. And I would say Energy Star is a nice thing to look for also. Right. Some of those other features, too, like if it'll turn off automatically and... Yeah, and be able to set a lot of adjustments, a wide band of adjustment for the humidity level, because also depending on the outdoor temperature, you might want to lower the humidity a little bit inside the house too. Because it's interesting, one article I was reading, it said if the outdoor temperature is 20 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, keep it around 40% humidity inside, 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 35% humidity, and 0 to negative 10, you'd want to keep your indoor humidity around 30%. Interesting. Let's wrap this up. You can subscribe to our podcast in iTunes and Stitcher, and now you can subscribe and listen to our show on the Spotify mobile app. And we were part of the beta test for their podcast app. Why are you trying to tell me something I don't know? Because I was part of all these decisions. Well, a lot of the stuff, I know you know, but we're talking to other people too. Anyways, if you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. You can download our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon, Book 2, and Book 1. Yeah, why just limit it? If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement. And you can subscribe to that as well. You can talk to Cindy on Twitter, @FixItCohost. You can drop me an email on fixitpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next week.